Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell, affectionately called revb. Welcome to Joy with revb on the New Thought Media Network. Joy is an acronym for Just One You. I believe the path to joy comes from accepting ourselves as we are, as we were created. So, as we begin today, I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement. I am currently visiting Nova Scotia, Canada, and I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are located on Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik people and was first signed with the British Crown in 1725. I respectfully acknowledge the ancestors, the medicines, the language, and the teachings of these Indigenous peoples, and these lands that have been stewarded for millennia that they call home and that we call home. We are grateful to be able to live, work, and play here. And we seek to always uncover the truth and to ensure that Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing continue. Today, we honor the Indigenous and Métis people across Turtle Island, for we are one. The Joy Show reflects the power of living authentically. And at my spiritual center, CSL on the Lake, we teach the power of thinking to create a beautiful life. And I know that when we live authentically, we experience the grace of God, and joy is possible. My personal belief is that there's one power, God, Spirit, Universe. The name is irrelevant as we are unable from our human perspective to fathom all that God is. It is sufficient to come to understand that we are one with our Creator, one with each other, and that this infinite power within us is something we can use. Well, the fact is we are using it. However, are we using it to serve our dreams and desires, or are we using it in a way that might diminish them? So I want to be, clear today that we are touching on some interesting topics today, the topic of mental health. And it is an important topic. It is time that we come to understand that every single one of us is created unique and special. And the way we are created is absolute perfection. We are created by this one divine power, this power for good that I call God or Spirit. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't create junk. So what I know today as we explore this topic, that my hope is that minds are opened and hearts are opened, and that there's a willingness to try to understand the other people that we share our planet with, and that we can find acceptance for each person's journey, knowing that each one of us has a personal journey, and how we share our little something, something, it's unique to us and should be honored and respected. So today I am so excited to have on my show today my beautiful family, two members of my beautiful family. My youngest son, Rye Anderson, also known as Rye the Banjo Guy, and my youngest daughter, Genèvieve Trudell, also known as Gigi. Gigi and Rye, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Hi. Well, I'm so glad that you were willing to do this with me today. And on the flight to Nova Scotia, Genèvieve and I had a conversation about her childhood and stuff, and some things came up that I had no awareness around. And I'm wondering, Genèvieve, could you share a little bit about what you've come to understand about your mental health and how you're currently dealing with it?
I would say my kind of journey with mental health is a very long one with a lot of ups and downs. It's always kind of been something that's been very present in my life. I've always been very in touch with my emotions. And like I remember always knowing that it was that thing of like, well, it just kind of didn't feel right, like to be kind of, I guess, treated the same way other kids were. Like it just, like I remember thinking about maybe, do I have such and such? And it was like, no, whatever. And that kind of wasn't a coherent sentence, but just, kind of having this idea that there's something that's a little bit different about me. And
Mhm.
at the time, it was something that wasn't really acknowledged or seen by uh, everyone in my life.
Mhm.
And that was hard because it was sort of this idea of, well, then if there's nothing wrong with me, then, or nothing wrong with me, then what is the problem? What is it about me that, like, why am I lagging behind? Why do I react like this? Why do I feel like this about certain things? Why do certain things make me flip out? What was sort of like, I just didn't know how to navigate anything. And of course I was young, and things like anxiety I've been dealing with since I was in the 4th grade. Same thing with depression. I had a lot of anger issues a while ago. And then I think the main thing I've dealt with throughout my whole life has just been things like sensory issues, which is what triggered the conversation on the plane.
Yes.
Because we had been talking about how when I was little, when we would take a flight, the pressure that is caused in your ears, and it kind of, you have to like chew gum or swallow or whatever to pop your ears. When I was little, that feeling of like the feeling you get in your ears, it was very, very overwhelming for me as a kid. And because I was younger, I didn't know how to express, I didn't know how to, like, properly explain what I felt and what was going on, because I
Mhm.
don't think I necessarily knew myself. So all I could do was say it hurts, because that's all I really knew, right? I didn't know how to say, like, you know, the pressure in the air cabin is making my ear canals, blah blah blah, because I was however old. And same thing with plane bathrooms. I actually still struggle with this. They are the loudest thing ever. Like, I'm 17, and if I go to the bathroom on a flight, I will plug my ears when I'm flushing the toilet, just because of how genuinely loud and overwhelming it is. Because for me personally, and I know like a lot of people that, have the same struggles and stuff, but for me, it sort of, depending on the state of mind, I would say things will affect me to a different degree. Say if I'm, in a good mood, I'm completely fine, there's not really anything going on and I'm just okay, then I'm less likely to, get like, have really bad sensory issues if I'm in a loud classroom, for example. But if
Mhm.
I'm, on the other end and I'm kind of feeling a little bit, not okay, which happens to everybody, I am just going to be more susceptible um, the harder side of all of this, and then, the stuff that you try your best to not let other people see,
Yeah.
but every once in a while it does have its way of showing itself.
Well, it's that sort of masking what's really going on for us so that people don't judge us or shame us or whatever. What about you, Rye? What has been your experience? You're a little older than Genevieve, a
Couple of years.
couple of years, yeah.
Um, well, like Gigi, I have struggled with mental health my entire life. Um, I dealt with a lot of depression and anger as a child, and well, always. I've, in the last 10 or so, 12, 15 years maybe, uh, my anxiety has gotten quite bad. Sometimes my social anxiety is so bad that I just don't really go out.
Mm.
Um, and then there's, of course, covering that up with substances. It's like, well, I can go out, but I have to have a couple of beer. So that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. So while I
Right.
didn't go out very much, or if I did, I would just let myself drink because then it would work. But so that was my main struggle. And then over the last few years, I've come to realize how pronounced my sensory issues are. I am on the autism spectrum, and some days, like Gigi said, I'm more fine and I can handle different
Mm.
situations. And other days, nope, just can't do it. Like
Can't do it.
the thought of
Can't
going
do
into a Walmart is torture.
Mhm.
So
That was interesting. Can you tell us about self-checkout?
They are the devil. Everything about them, either they just don't like me, so they don't work well with me, or something, because the beeping, the glitches, the errors, the unknown item and bagging counter, and it's so overwhelming that I will stand in line behind 8 people with full carts before going to an empty self checkout.
Wow. So one of the things I'd like to do now, I know both of you have incredible music talent.
Thank you.
And so at this time, what I'd like to do is play a video that Rye recorded a little while ago, Rye the banjo guy. And this video is a song that he did a few years back, but is absolutely wonderful. And I truly hope that you enjoy it as much as I do.
Like to tell you a story. It happened down by the square, down in old Joe's ballroom, when the regular crowd was there. Up stood Big Joe McKinney, his eyes bloodshot red, and the crowd around him, boys, these were the words that he said. Well, I went down to St. James and Curry. I saw my baby there, lying on the long white table, Lord, so young, so cold, so sad. But let it go, God bless her soul, wherever she may be. Let it search the soul wide world and never find a man as sweet as me. When I die, won't you bury me in my dirty old traveling vest? Put a couple of diamonds in my pocket so the folks will know I ain't that less. Well, I want 6 steady kids, football bearers, tattoo girls to sing this song. Bearded banjo man on my left wing in the rain, as we roll along. Well, I went down to St. James and Curry. I saw my baby there, lying along my table, Lord, feeling so cold, so sad. Well, let it go, God bless her soul, wherever she may be. Man, I search the soul I love, and never found a man as sweet as me. When I die, put my tombstone, and let us both lie in black. Here lies old Joe McKinney, ever friendly man who's never coming back. So won't you roll out that old busted carriage, pack it down and pull it down the track. The 2 men go down to that graveyard, only tell the left man I'm coming back. Well, I went down to St. James Infirmary. I saw my baby there, lying on the long white table, Lord, so young, so cold, so fair. Well, let it go, God bless her soul, wherever she may be. Let her search the soul wide world over, never find a man as sweet as me. infirmary blues. He's got the St. James infirmary
Wow. Oh, right. So tell me, how does your music make a difference when it comes to the depression, the anxiety, the sensory issues? Your music is powerful. I love the way you play the banjo. And I mean, I know I'm your mom, but I absolutely love listening to you play. And the quality of your voice, the music that you've written, which is much, there's a lot of it. How is it supporting your journey?
One of the things I do is I am a street performer. So I'll go out to if there's a festival or a farmer's market or something, I'll set up my things and I will just sing my lungs out for an hour or two. And there is nothing better for mental health than just belting your lungs out for hours and seeing smiling children dancing in front of you and seeing people walk by and you catch their ear and they just kind of stop and look at you for a sec. It's like it's nice. I really like it. And it feels great to just release.
Oh, yeah, of course. Now, you're also an artist.
I am.
You do wood carvings, you do leather work. So tell us a little bit about that and how that's supporting you on your unique journey as an artist overall.
Well, it's supporting me in one way in that that's how I am currently making my living.
Hmm.
So I can make leather items and do wood carvings, and I go to the farmers market in different places and I sell them online. So
Hmm.
financially, that does wonderful things for mental health. Um, and when I'm in my shop carving, and I've got like a little bear that I'm working on, just seeing it come to life and just come into existence it's awesome. It feels good to make something cute that I know is probably going to make somebody smile down the road.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, there's something about working with our hands that sometimes can help us to deal with anxiety, depression, when we're creating something like your little bears are pretty beautiful and interesting how intricate they are, given how small some of them are. And yet, as you're doing that work, do you find that it helps you to kind of clear your head and come to a level of peace?
Very much so. I can zone out and just I don't have to really think about anything, or I can just let my mind wander, and I just do my thing, make my bear, or do my stitching with my leather work, and I
Yeah,
can just listen to music when I'm doing leather. I can't do it when I'm carving; it's very loud.
yes,
Um, So listening to music also helps. I can
yeah.
sing along while I'm doing my stitching. And with the way my brain works with my neurodivergence, being able to focus on something is soothing. It's calming.
Well, I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. One of the things that I strongly believe in is that every single one of us is created in the image and of the likeness of God, which means each and every one of us is created in a certain way. And we come into this life experience with our own little unique something, something, whatever that is. And I don't think there's any mistakes or accidents. And when I look at, and I know the challenges, Rye and Genevieve, I know the challenges that you've faced through your life. And Rye, yours, some of them have been pretty extreme. And as I look at that, and look at where you've come to and how you've managed to sort of tread the waters of the judgment, the criticism, the ridicule that you've had to deal because you were bullied almost every day of your life. How are things different now compared to when you were in school and being picked on all the time?
Well, I'm not surrounded by people who dislike me, so that's great. I highly recommend be around people who love you, and it helps you love yourself. As I struggled with that for years, and yeah, I don't really get bullied anymore, and I don't really give people the opportunity. I am who I am. I try to own it and just be myself. And if someone doesn't like it, oh, that's kind of their problem.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I like to talk about a lot is that what people think of you is none of your business, because frankly, it's got nothing to do with you. Like
Yeah.
what I think of you is coming from inside me, from my conditioning, from my history. And so if I'm projecting something onto you, who's really got the problem? That's exactly, exactly. What about you, Genevieve? I know you've had some challenges, especially of late, with kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, school has kind of always had a really difficult element, whether that be, friends or academically. There's always been like, there's never sort of been a time where I've been like completely okay with anything surrounding school. Because as someone who's neurodivergent, I was raised and taught and educated in a neurotypical environment, which is very difficult because then you wonder for however many years you tell yourself that you're the problem, or that it's your fault that you're not as smart or whatever. When in fact, I look back and I look at now, like I have really excellent grades, and I look back and it's numerous different things. I seem to do really well in school when I have a really good support system. And the second anything kind of falters, like it's sort of like when something really bad happens in my personal life, I, kind of crash and burn, and that there's like those waves of effects that come afterwards.
Mhm.
Like this 11th grade is, I think, kind of known as the hardest year of schooling, and they weren't lying about that. Um, first semester, I had classes that would probably be considered harder than in my second semester, and I, passed with flying colors. But I
Yeah.
think I had worked myself so hard in the first semester that by the time I got to the second semester and present, I kind of don't have as much energy to just like keep going and keep pushing and put in the effort that I had previously put in, which is
Mhm.
really difficult. And it's easier now that, it's on my record that, I might require a little bit more time, or, this is likely to happen, or blah, 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 blah. Like now I have papers and documents that show that I'm not just, overreacting, which is what I had known for a lot of years. Like, I actually a situation this year, it happened a couple months ago, but something led to a classmate of mine calling me dramatic, and actually I wasn't there when she had said that. But once it had gotten to me, I had already been in a very fragile state at that point, and it kind of just flew me over the edge, or pushed me over the edge, because for many, many years when I was in elementary school, I was in a friend group that didn't necessarily understand mental health and anxiety, which I couldn't blame them. We were, 9, 10, 11, something like that. So I don't hold any resentment against them at all. But there is that sort of thing of why, when your friend was clearly not okay, I never understood why they wanted to put me down and ostracize me for that. And that had effects, and it still does on me today. Whereas like months ago, someone can call me over dramatic and it actually like absolutely breaks me. Right. It's a lot. It's been really difficult. And it's a lot of like coming to terms with, that this is, as long as I'm alive and breathing, this is my life. This is my brain is going to function the same way that it will till I die. And sometimes it's really upsetting when you think about, like, all the stuff that you don't necessarily get to experience the same way, or the things you don't get to experience because, like you were mentioning with social anxiety, I literally within the last week, I went to a party, and because of the pandemic, I haven't really had the chance to, go out and do anything because I was in 9th grade when the pandemic started. It's my first year of high school, and I haven't really had any fun high school experiences. And so I go to this party expecting to be, super social, ready to make some new friends. And I talked to no one but my 2 friends the entire time. Well, I talked to a couple people, but I mainly just stuck to myself in a corner. And it's weird because it's like you want to make a good first impression, but you don't know, you have like a weird sense of humor, or you don't know how people are perceiving you, or what to say or what not to say, what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. And there's so many different questions that fly around that kind of prevent me from actually, being myself as a first impression. Like, I always have to take a minute to warm up to people.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of us who sort of struggle with that as well. How am I supposed to be so that people will like me, so they'll accept me? And the truth is, not everyone will. And what I know about both of you, and I sort of have inside knowledge, but what I know about both of you is that you're both very, very smart. Your math skills, your science skills, your English skills, Genevieve, your French skills, all of this is really, really great. And you were talking about your marks last semester, Genevieve. Yeah, 98, 99, 100. That's fairly good. What's really important, I think, for people to know is that mental health, and I'm calling it mental health for a reason, because it's not an illness. It's not a disorder. It is an expression of sort of that divine nature that you are. And as a result of that, your mental health might appear different from some other person's, but that doesn't make it bad or wrong. It simply expresses your unique nature. And that as you tap into, sort of the essence of you and live from that, which you both have done by finding your music, your art, what's happened is you found a way to channel your unique creativity. And I really, truly believe you make the world a better place as a result of that. Now, this show is all about the fact that joy results when each and every one of us lives authentically as we are. And what happens, I think, when we appear different from the people we're hanging out with, we tend to put these masks on, and we try to fit in, and we're trying to be normal. But I don't actually think normal truly exists. I think it's an opportunity for extreme mediocrity. Right? I think that's as far as it's going to get us. Now, before we move on to our next segment, we're going to have a brief little commercial break. I want to thank everybody who's watching, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
And just like talk.
I'm so grateful to be part of the New Thought Media Network and so grateful for this opportunity to produce a show like this that can talk about all manner of different things. And today we're talking about mental health. And I have my two beautiful children, two of my four, Genevieve and Rye. And Genevieve, we were just talking about the, the journey that you've been on in kind of working through the opinions of others and how to stay strong. And do you find that it is your music that takes you to a new place?
Um, yeah, I would say like writing music for me is sort of like a once in a while kind of thing. Like I'll usually like go through a phase where I'll be like, playing my music, writing new music, working on songs, blah blah blah, and then I'll go a while without touching my guitar or something. It goes through these in and outs. And the thing is, I'm always working on music. I'm just not always working on my own music. But music in general is something I hold very close and very it's very important to me, and it's sort of just something that I've found that is always something that like it's always going to be there, that kind of thing. Like it's not like there's not going to be a time where I'm not going to be able to play or listen or do music or whatever. And it's what I like about music is for me personally at least, you don't even need lyrics for it to hit. Because I listen to classical music all the time, or like instrumental things, and it's still like there's so many different layers and emotions that you're able to pull from a simple piece of music, of just a piano, for example. And it has to do with the artist that's playing it, because like you can feel, because they put their emotions into it. And I was talking about with my vocal coach that singing, at least, is a very it's a full body thing. Like you're not it's a lot harder than people make it out to be, because there's a lot of technique and strategy and just, well, yeah, that goes into it. Like I had a situation at school a couple weeks ago, and then I had my music lesson that day, and I was working on a song it's a very big song and everything, and I was very frustrated with myself because I couldn't hit this final note that I was working on. And it was a note that I knew I could hit. I've hit notes higher than that. And I was really just struggling. And I'd also had a really crap day. And so I told my music teacher, she was like asking me like, is everything all right? Because I think she could probably tell and feel it. And I told her, yeah, like I just had a really bad day, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, well then that's what that is. Because like our bodies just like kind of naturally retain all this emotion. And yeah, sometimes that comes in handy, because then if you're able to release all of that emotion at the right time, then it makes for a killer performance. But the downside is, when you still have it all locked up, it's like there's like a blockage kind of thing. And for me, singing is like, it's my craft, it's what I do, it's my like contribution. And so I take it seriously, and it's something that is healing for me. It's
Beautiful.
something that I can use to overcome and such.
Nice. And on that note, let's share a piece of music that Genevieve performed a few months back, and quite a lovely performance of Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen.
There was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? say I took the name in vain. I don't even know the name, but if I did, well, really, what's it to you? There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter what you heard, the holy or the broken. Hallelujah, 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 I did my best and it wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I told the truth, I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of Song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah,
Beautiful. That song, piano player was Richard Whiteman, supporting Genevieve on that. And, as I listen, yeah, well, for both of you, you're both so talented. I think, what I would want people to take away from this show is when we appear to be different, it's not that we appear to be different, it's that we are uniquely exactly who we were made to be. And if we can come to respect that and honor that and cherish that, I think that's when the world becomes a much safer and better place for everyone. Do you feel like you can accept where you are and do what you need to do to support your own health and well-being overall?
I think I
Right?
can. I'm
Yeah.
I'm getting there. It's always a journey, but I'm at a point in my life where I'm just trying to own it, be me, just celebrate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the same boat, and I think I'm very far from, I think, where I'd like to be with my mental health and with my own, like my security in my own skin. But and I don't think I'll ever reach, the perfect thing, because that's the kind of, I'm neurodivergent, so that already sets me back a couple of pegs, and there's nothing I can do about that. So,
but it also sets you forward a couple of pegs in other ways.
Exactly.
Musically.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's what I've said. It's a curse and a blessing, because on one hand, I can experience the same thing as another person and have a totally negative experience, but then I can also have the same experience as someone else and have a totally positive experience, because things like my sensory issues can sometimes enhance other things, like listening to music is a better experience for me personally, because I feel the music. I don't like, I can literally feel where it is in my head, or like if I'm listening to it with headphones or something, which I typically do. Unless I'm actively doing something, I typically have headphones on. But I have this I don't know, this like capability of experiencing things a lot more differently, and like I said, it can be really positive experience or really negative experience, and I think it all depends on a million different things, like how I'm feeling that day, what else has happened that day, and all the million other variables. But I think hopefully one day I'll be at a place where I can be 100% comfortable in my own skin. But I think
Mm.
that may be a little ways away. But I do have the time. So
Well, that's true. And I think many of us kind of feel that way. Like it would be awesome to just live in this and be okay with it exactly as it is, to love ourselves enough to just go, this is me. And instead of trying to be something else or trying to fit this square peg into a round hole, I'm just allowing myself to be who I am. And I know I'm a little older than both of you, and I'm still journeying there. And I think it's a journey that's worth taking. And I think learning to really truly accept that, yes, I might be different than, my friend is, or my classmates are, or the people I work with. That doesn't make me broken or flawed. It makes me, like everybody else, unique and special. And when I can own it, then I can begin to express my talents in a new way. And Rye, I've watched you over these many, many years and how you have become this remarkable artist. Like, I'm in awe because everything you're doing, for the most part, you found a way to learn it yourself.
Yeah. I'm self-taught with everything. I mean, the world these days, YouTube is wonderfully helpful. That's how I've learned how to start my wood carvings, take the first couple of steps, and then, okay, so now I know the basics, now I make it mine. And it's the same with music. Like I can play any instrument that has frets and strings because my brain just works really well that way. And I don't know,
it's what makes sense.
yeah, it makes sense. Like I struggle. I want to be able to play an organ or a keyboard or piano. I can't quite wrap my head around it yet, but I know once I get past that step, it's going to be really easy for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, like art has been a struggle my whole life. I've always wanted to make art, like physical art, and never really could until I found the mediums that worked for me.
Right.
Stitching leather, wood carving.
Yeah.
I can create things that look really neat when they're done.
Well, and you've done really well. And I remember some of the stories you wrote as a child, some of the poetry that you did when you were younger. Like it really was genius for the age that you were. And Genevieve, you do this as well. Like I've read some of the things you write, and it's like I see the challenges that you both have had and the way people around you treat you. And Rye, my apologies, because I know I was one of those people. Not anymore. But it's like, how do we come to terms with, like as a parent, I wanted you guys to have every opportunity, to never have a mistake, to grow up in the perfect, world that I determined was perfect for you, which of course is the flaw right there, because I don't live in your skin and I don't know your experience. And I think sometimes as parents, we're trying to protect, but in doing that, we're sending a message that somehow you're not good enough. And if ever I've done that, I apologize for that, because you are. I think both of you, are falling well within the genius level, and your creativity and your brilliance is remarkable and so easy to spot and see. Genèvieve, you are a singer, yes, but you're also a comedian. You're very, very funny. And I look at those qualities and I'm kind of in awe. So what do you think are your next big goals or big dreams moving forward as you learn to really love and accept yourself as you are? Is there something big that you hope to accomplish in the near or far future?
Well, I would say two of many, but obviously the first one being singing. But one of my other great passions is swimming. And I think in hopefully my next like goal for the two, I want to start, working on working out in general and swimming, because swimming for me is a lot like singing, but it's obviously much more physically engaging. But it's sort of, there is that serenity that I can find in the water that I can within, you know, some music. And so I'd like to start, like, I want to get back in the pool again, because, you know, a lot of people always recommend, you know, exercise and working out and stuff for people with mental health. And yeah, you know, it's a lot easier said than done, because, you know, yeah, it's great in theory to, you know, get your endorphins released by working out, but you know, that's great in theory. However, first I got to figure out how the hell I'm going to get out of my bed this morning,
Yeah.
right? Or how I'm going to get out of the house, or if I'm actually going to actively make a plan to go out. And even when it comes to things like swimming or singing, it's like, yes, those are things I love, but currently I'm feeling bad enough that I don't have the energy to go do that. I don't have the energy to go put the work in to even make myself feel better, because I know I'll feel better afterwards. But, you know, and so I'd like to, and I know every summer I go back to Calgary and I swim, you know, usually about 1,000 meters to max about 2.5 thousand meters with my niece, and we both push each other. But yeah, it is rewarding, and that's something I would like to kind of indulge in, because it's stuff that is good for my mental health, and I'd want to write some more music and hopefully get that music out, maybe, but I have no idea.
That's perfect. What about you, Rye? What are your big ambitions moving forward, near or far?
Being able to support myself financially a little better would be nice off my art. I would very much like to not have to get a job. No, I don't like them. They
No,
don't.
me too. That's all
Yeah.
of my friends are like, "Oh, you're not going to get a job." I'm like, "I have a job. Thank you very much. People
Stick with
hire
it.
me." Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be
I-
part of capitalism.
No, it's
Keep me out of it.
I've been self-employed or unemployed for a couple of years now, and I really don't want to go back. I want to be able to just a better quality of life would be great, having some
Mhm.
more income coming in, and it will. Until then, I'll just keep making my art, keep making my music, and
Yeah,
roll
that
with that.
actually that brings up a good point, because I've always found that, like, the only work I'll ever have interest in doing is any work that surrounds the things I like. You know, like if I get, like, if there's, you know, if let's say one day I need a little bit of extra money and I just want to work at, like, I don't know, something that has to do like an animal shelter or something, or like anything that has to do with, like, maybe I could go like be a lifeguard or do something that I like. But I've had friends that, you know, complain and complain and complain about their jobs, and I'm like, so why do you do it? Like, there's, and like I understand, like, but even at my age, for most kids, because I do have friends that have to, you know, pay for their own, I don't know, phone bill or something like that. But I also have friends that, you know, don't have to do that, but they, you know, they work for, they want to be able to, you know, buy their own stuff, which is totally understandable. I have that same want and desire. It's just my field, let's just say, it's a little bit more dry. And it's a lot harder to get a job. But when you do get a job, the thing is, like, you know, I have friends working minimum wage, and they hate their job, and then they get however much an hour. And, you know, I go spend 2-3 hours for something, you know, a memorial, a funeral, or some gig, or blah 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 blah, and I get, we'll not say, you know, figures, but I'll get more money than they would in like a day or something, right? And that's me doing something I love. So I've always just been like, what is the point? Why are you working yourself so hard if you're not even enjoying yourself? You know?
I
We're
think
told
that's it.
Mhm.
What's that, Rye?
society tells us that that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to go get a job. Hobbies are for when you're outside of work.
Mhm.
Mm. Well, there's many people out there who are doing what they love and earning a good living doing it. And I think the key is, I'd heard a phrase years ago that's really stuck with me, and I don't know who coined it, but it is, when you settle for less than what you really want, you get less than you settled for.
Mm.
And I have found that to be true. I remember when I worked, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job, and how unhappy I was all the time. And now, yes, things are different. I do what I love. And, I consider myself more self employed than anything. And as a result of that, I get to do the things that I want to do in the way that I want to do them. And there's something very fulfilling and satisfying about that. So I think it's important. I think you're both on the right track. Do what you love, do it with joy and celebration, and use your own unique way of being without judgment or criticism, but to see yourselves as absolute brilliant artists in a world that really needs more joy and love. And you bring that when you give your gifts. Any final comments that either one or both of you would like to share before we end our show today?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking about, we were talking about art and stuff, and I've never been able to draw, never really been able to paint. I like coloring, but sometimes it's not always pretty because I don't really understand colors very much. But I recently, for Christmas, actually, I received a little cross-stitching kit. And it was just like this little coffee mug that I did, but I absolutely fell in love with just like being able to sit down and, I'll always have to watch something because, one of the other things for me is a lot of the time I have to be kind of overstimulated to keep me at like a certain level. So I'll find myself like, let's say I'm on my class on my laptop. So I have that going, and then I have Netflix going on my TV, and then I'm on my phone doing something. And that's when I'm stable. But whereas with cross stitching, it requires so much attention. And, it's not like I can be, if I'm not careful, I'm going to end up bleeding all over the place. But like I can, have some kind of video running in the background or watching something or talking to a friend or whatever, and I can just be stitching. And it really, as frustrating and annoying it can be, it's also really therapeutic. And, it's like sometimes you're like, oh, I feel like I've been going at this forever and I feel like there's no difference. And then you get to the end of something, it's like, wow, that's really pretty. Or sometimes you get to the end of something, it's like, wow, that's definitely, I made that. Like, but yeah, but that's just something I found that is like it helps me kind of come to that like zoning out spot that you were talking about earlier, and that like sort of that peace of mind. And it's just like a lot of time can go by and you just find yourself stitching and you're like, I'm like, nice. 17. Let's go.
What about you, Rye?
I think my final thought is just for anyone out there struggling, just be yourself, own it. There's only you. You're the only one that can do what you can do the way you do it. Like my mom, revb says. It's just own it. Let your freak flag fly. Be yourself and
let your little something something shine.
Like Mom says. Just do it. Be yourself. Own it. You're the only one. The right people come to you. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being with me today and sharing a little bit of your light and love and your gifts and talents. I'm really I'm really in awe of how you deal with the challenges that you've been facing throughout your life experience. Riley's been a little longer than Genèvieve, but the journey sometimes has been difficult, and a lot of that comes from the outside world and how we are perceived by other people based on maybe the way we speak, how loud we are or quiet we are, how much we, sort of stand for what we believe in or pull ourselves back. There's so much judgment in our world. And I think that is fodder for deep pain and discomfort for everyone. And I think the way that we begin to change the world and create harmony, love, and peace is to imagine for just a moment that everything in the world is done by people just like me. And when I can look at everyone around me in that way, I'm a little less judgmental and maybe a little bit more hopeful about what our future has to offer. I want to thank you both for being here. You are light of my life, and I'll have to get your sister and brother on one of the shows coming up. So thank you both. You are wonderful, and I love you very, very much. And in closing, I just want to say that, you know, the painful parts of our journey can cause us to shut down or hide ourselves, to mask our feelings. And actually, we might even begin to live the lies that we've been told, that somehow we're broken or no good. And that can cause us to kind of give up on ourselves and, you know, just try to fit in at any cost. But I really believe that if we can just embrace the uniqueness that each one of us is, begin to love the gifts and talents and to appreciate those gifts and talents that we possess, I think that's when we're on the road to freedom and joy, and we can celebrate our own unique nature and live in a place of lasting joy. I'm Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell, Rev B, and you've been watching The Joy Show with Rev B on the New Thought Media Network. And I thank you. Have a most wonderful weekend. Namaste.